Welcome back to the channel. So have you ever gone through this situation where you've been driving down the road at highway speeds and you hit your brake and all of a sudden your wheel starts to shake? On today's episode, we're going to explain why this happens and how to change it on a 2016 to 2021 third gen Toyota Tacoma. So stay tuned. So today we are going to address the brake shudder or vibration under braking that happens on most vehicles when you have warped rotors. Now, warped rotors are something that happen over time, especially in areas where there's a lot of elevation incline or descent. And why this happens is because as you're hitting your brakes, those brake pads and rotors are heating up. And then once you go to do a sudden stop, that metal at that hot temperature will bend. Once that rotor has bent, every time after you hit those brakes, you're going to feel that bend every time that wheel spins, manifesting as a shudder in the steering wheel. So we're going to switch it off to Brandon, who's going to explain how to replace your brake pads on a 2016 to 2021 third gen Toyota Tacoma.
All right, today we're working on a 2016 third generation Toyota Tacoma. Today we're going to be replacing the front brake pads and disc rotors for you today. So what I'm doing first is I'm going to be taking this little bracket off to loosen up the brake line and the wheel speed sensor so we can move this out of the way without bending anything or anything like that. So the first thing you got to do is take the little pin keeper out, which holds your brake pad pins in. And then once this is out, it just slides in through these little holes in the pins. Just pop it out, slide the pins out. This is a spreader, keeps tension on the pads going toward the pistons. And then after those are out, pads come and slide right out. To get the caliper off, there's two 17mm bolts that you got to take off. We usually put it on an impact gun. You can use a wrench or a socket, ratchet. But 2 bolts take off the caliper, and then I always try to secure it so it's not hanging by the lines or anything, so nothing gets bent or messed up while you're doing your work. And so back to the bracket, we took off this bolt that held this bracket on, and the reason why is so it can hang here and we can move all this stuff around without bending this metal line or messing with the wires or anything like that. It's all nice and loose so it can move around. So to get these rotors off, when they machine them and make them, they put little holes that have threads in them. You can just take a standard bolt and you thread it in to the rotor itself, and then you can tighten it in and it'll pull the rotor off without having to use a hammer or pry bars or anything like that. So I have this handy little piston depressor for calipers. The thing about Toyota calipers, they have a 4-piston caliper. There's two pistons on each side. This one comes in really handy because we can push in all 4 at one time. So now we basically do everything that we just did in reverse. New rotor on, caliper on. So now that your caliper and rotor are back on, you want to make sure all surface areas, anywhere the pad is going to touch, are clean. So we're getting to the point where we're getting ready to go back together. Before I do, I like to clean up the pins. And always keep your hardware, the little keepers and such. Sometimes they don't come with hardware, the new pads. Clean these pins up so everything has a smooth operation. Nothing sticky, nothing, it all slides nice and smooth. All right, so basically the final steps before you put the pads in, make sure any matting surfaces, anywhere metal touches metal, is lubed. Tops of the pads, inside the caliper, the pistons, you want to make sure those are all lubed. The pins are lubed up, and put in all our little keepers. Make sure it's all one piece. So basically what we're going to do after this is go to the other side and perform the same exact procedures. Nothing changes, it's just mirrored. So that's what we're going to do now. And of course, after you're all done, before you start the engine, before you try to drive it anywhere, pump up your brake pedal because it'll be going all the way to the floor on that first pump, and you don't want to do that. You want to do nice short pumps until it's all pumped up and the pedal's nice and hard. If you don't pump up the pedal and you put it into reverse or drive right off the bat, your car will not stop. You're going for a ride wherever it wants you to go until you pump it up.
Now, the brake pads and rotors aren't always replaced at the same time. Sometimes just the pads themselves are replaced. In this case, because of the shaking during braking, both were replaced. If you guys have any other questions, leave them in the comments below. Like this video if it brought you some value, subscribe so you don't miss any more of our videos, follow us on Facebook or our website, pitstopcarcare.com.